I agree with that.
I want to ask like one more scenario, okay?
Please.
What about if two people get married, they have a kid, and then the wife starts cheating? Do you think they should divorce?
Absolutely.
They should divorce then?
Jesus himself said.
But it wasn't
hold on. Jesus
and
himself
you could
said,
work things through, right?
Jesus himself said in cases of adultery, divorce is
So you think that
permissible.
divorce is worse than physical abuse?
No. For the children?
Or cheating, sorry. You think that
is
cheating is worse
than
than physical abuse?
For the children, yes.
Absolutely
I think I'm not going to say this is worse.
Divorce is worse for the children.
I already
cheating worse than
said that
physical
if a
Cheating,
woman's
yeah.
getting abused, yeah, I think she should leave. Like, I mean, if it's a brief temporary thing, like
What if it's mental abuse?
Okay, now
Do you
It's
think
less
if
cut and
it's
dry.
cheating
You
and
are setting
mental
your
abuse?
child up for failure as well if you stay in like these abusive
Look, that's
marriages.
not true.
Yes, it is, because you're literally every single psychologist. We can like Google it right now if you want. Will agree that the patterns that you have at home are going to replicate in their future, right? So if this child gets used to seeing their other loved ones and probably them being talked down upon, being treated badly, they normalize that behavior. So you're setting
it does get passed down generations.
Yeah.
You're correct.
Get some help.
You're setting them up
to
for failure in the
again, this
workplace
is-
and relationships.
I
in the
just want
future.
you guys to understand, this is like the reason why I sit on this podcast and like extol the virtues that I do is because it's like I think we need more righteous biblical masculinity in the world where you actually have good men that are going to be good leaders of their households. They're not going to beat their wives or emotionally or mentally abuse them or any of these things. Like that's why I continue to do this podcast with Brian, because we need to make men great again so that we don't have these situations continue.
But,
to
Yeah,
but
you're
it-
talking
there's-
about liberal men who would
but there's
get
probably-
epically triggered
Facts.
like
But there's-
snowflakes.
But there's
Facts.
probably
And
gonna
they'd be like, "You're equal to me. I'm gonna beat you up."
But there's probably going to be cases where there are like really, really horrible marriages. And my question is, would you recommend those people to like choose happiness and like divorce and try to like be on their own because being in the relationship makes them really, really unhappy? Maybe even suicidal. Who knows? Do you think they should rather stay just because they?
But you're
swore-
trying.
I think they should go to
you're
church
taking
and
a-
return to God.
Like you're taking a very,
so that
very.
these
Yeah, but I
issues
don't.
go away.
Yeah,
You're
I don't
taking
think
a
the
very- wait,
issues
wait,
would
wait,
go
hold
away.
on.
Let's say if your partner is being really, really, really bad to you, and there's like so many things that he needs therapy, but he's not doing it. Do you think that the wife in that case should stick around for that, even though it might be really bad for her and the child?
But
It's
you're
better to stick
taking
around
you're
for
taking
that
an
than-
extremely
than
niche.
separating.
Hold on, you're
Yes.
taking an extremely
I don't think it's very
niche
extreme.
example. You are.
I don't think it is.
Okay, well,
I think
you are.
there's a lot of
So listen, you're taking an
relationships out there
extremely
that-
niche example and you're blanket statementing it for like the entire solution
I'm not saying
of
it at all.
divorce.
I think
I mean, you are though.
No, I'm not saying.
Because you're saying like,
No,
what if
wait,
the
wait.
guy is like the wife?
Yeah, I'm asking
and then
you what
like
you
the
think,
kids
what you
are
would
like
recommend for
fucking.
the- Wait,
They love Black Lives Matter.
I never see you conservatives talk about problems like this. That won't,
I'm
like,
not a
that is
conservative,
happening.
first of all. How
Okay,
dare
but
you
I never
assume
see-
my political
I never see you talk
affiliation?
about problems that
Wait.
might happen in a marriage
Typically,
after you
when
get
his
married.
points
I
are
think-
raised,
I always
it's
see
the
you
poison
guys
in the
talk
well.
about. I always see you guys talk about how you get there and all these things. But when it actually comes to like happiness and like mental health, I never see you talk about any of it. And like
This is
what to
why-
do in
Mental health is
situations
a
like
side-
this.
Melina, I want to make
Yeah.
the point. This is why I tell people that they need to find God and go to church, because it's like all of these problems that you're describing, if somebody authentically has a relationship with Christ and they're living in alignment with the word, like it's going to mitigate 99%
yes,
of
but
these
I
issues.
do know conservatives that is
Yeah,
going to
there's
church
fucked
and
up
they
people out
still
there.
abuse their partners.
Physically,
And I'm
wait,
asking-
you-
fucked up
wait,
people.
wait,
You are
hold on.
I'm asking you if you're going to stick
So
up
wait,
for
wait,
those
you
people.
know
Yes.
And what would
conservative.
you say? Would you tell them to divorce, or would you tell them to
Time
stick
out, time out.
along
You-
in an abusive relationship?
You say you know conservative men right now that are beating their wives?
No, I'm saying that they probably exist, right? I mean, I'm asking you, what would you say to help those
But what would you
cases?
say to liberal men who are beating their wives?
She would say
Yeah, but
don't
it's
divorce.
not the
She would say
same.
divorce.
Yeah, you
She would say
divorce.
divorce.
But like,
Stop
but it's a
beating
lot-
her.
Yeah, but it's a lot easier as a liberal if you're non-religious to just divorce,
Wait,
right?
the point-
But
the-
if you're really, really religious, like really heavily, and you have a lot of pressure from your parents and like society, if you, or like the group that you're coming from, the culture, it's going to be a lot harder for you to divorce
But
because
you're
you have the
creating
pressure
like
to
a-
stick.
you're creating
Because
like
you
a-
guys are saying like no matter what happens, you stick in the marriage, even though it might be
But again,
really
to
like
go
mental
back,
damage
Melina,
or anything,
so-
Which is
right?
why you
Melina, to
choose
go
your
back to the
partners
point,
wisely.
Nev, 1 second. To go back to the point that I was making, you know, encouraging people to go to church. If somebody's in a situation like that, this is a concern that ought to be brought before the church and taken care of with the elders and the other people that are there. And like, let's say John is beating his wife, right? And his wife comes to the church leadership and she's like, hey, like, this is a problem.
With two black
I want to
eyes,
divorce him.
like, hey,
you know,
this guy's
at that
whooping my
point in
ass.
time, the church leadership can step in and be like, yo, John, why are you beating your wife?
Which honestly, I appreciate them asking. A lot of institutions wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
There might be valid reasons.
and they
Yeah.
ought to. And this is
I've already told her twice,
This is a
like-
positive. This is a positive social pressure that comes with being a part of the body of Christ. And like, actually being involved, right? Like there's so many benefits to people seeking God and going to church and like being a part of a community like that, where a situation like you're describing arising, like there's going to be a ton of social accountability. But when people are atomized and they're separated from the rest of their community and stuff, and they're, they have like a secular conservative home, you don't have that social net to like protect
People used to get lynched for doing things like that.
I think the issue is that, like, in the broadest, in the most macro, broadest sense, I think the big disagreements is it feels like on our side, it feels like we're talking about relationships like they're meant to be enjoyed, and you guys are talking about relationships like they're meant to be endured.
Absolutely.
I mean, to an extent, a relationship.
I like how you guys think two totally opposite.
I disagree with the idea.
Wait.
The idea that they're just meant to be endured, again, it's another false dichotomy, right? Like you're saying,
He agreed, though.
I did. No.
No, and you do have to endure.
You're saying it's
I understand
you
reasonably.
You do have to endure.
Endure. Look,
you have to endure.
Marriage comes down to, in my opinion, my humble opinion, as a single 28-year-old man, I can't speak from experience, but it's like I listen to guys like Jordan Peterson, and he makes incredible points in the sense that there is a lot to be enjoyed in marriage, like you guys are describing, but also at the same time, it takes personal sacrifice. It takes endurance. It takes like sticking through thick and thin and like really sacrificing for the relationship. It's not all. It's not going to be daisies
To
and
a certain
roses
point,
the entire
right?
time.
I mean,
think-
Destiny,
Yeah.
I think you can
To a
agree
certain
that
point.
majority, like nowadays, the majority of like average people and people in general, they just give up too quick on anything.
I don't know. I think that the disagreements that
100%.
we're
You
having
disagree?
is that
You think the people are like
It's-
more to like push through things and
the
like not
issue
having
is
an
that we can survive better independently without relationships, so women's standards for enjoying relationships is getting higher. And
That's
I
true.
think that we're having an issue like trying
In
to
America.
negotiate. Well, in most of the Western world, probably. Right?
which is all failing.
There's also a lot of
It's the
propaganda.
most successful compared to what?
I mean,
What are we
compared
failing
to,
to?
well, I mean, failing as a nation, failing in obesity.
What nation are we failing compared to?
Well, let's see. America, let's see. Obesity rates are on a climb. Let's see. We can't get
You're
enough.
not answering the question. What country or what other, what are we failing to?
Okay, so let's talk about failing in regards to obesity. We're the
No,
She's asking for an example of a country that's doing it right.
Ironic.
You can still fail objectively.
Right? No, we don't need
what
to
country?
listen.
You're saying
just-
we're failing as a whole.
Just
That
relax.
suggests that there's
I
a
get
measure
it.
of success. What country succeeds?
No.
Declining. We were
It's
better
like
100 years ago.
Yeah, that you're trying to say like we need to find another country that's doing it right, but I'm just saying no, wrong is wrong, and we're doing it wrong. Like if we're trending in the wrong direction, like we're getting fatter, we cannot meet military recruitment and like requirements.
What
at
the
all.
fuck? Holy shit. Sorry.
No,
My bad.
drug use is at an all-time high. Self-deletion is at an all-time high. Single mother households going up. American education on every front is like dropping in numbers. So like every objectifiable number, yes, America's
Diseases
trending in the
have
wrong.
gone down,
Just listen. Hold on.
level of
The West
education
No,
is
listen,
falling.
listen.
That is
The
so
West
sad.
is
Listen,
falling.
listen.
Let's get to a super chat real
It's-
quick. Brian, pull it up.
Yep.